There is a version of you that already exists in possibility. That version is disciplined, clear, focused, calm. And every morning, that version wakes up early. Waking up early is not about the clock. It is about who you are becoming. Most people think rising early is a productivity trick. They see it as a strategy to get more done. But the deeper truth is this: when you choose to wake up early, you are not managing time, you are shaping identity. Identity is built through repeated actions. Not through what you say, not through what you plan, not even through what you dream about. It is built through what you consistently do, especially when it is uncomfortable. When the alarm rings in the darkness of early morning, there is a quiet battle. No one is watching, no applause, no recognition. Just you and your decision. In that moment, two versions of you exist. One seeks comfort, the other seeks growth. When you rise immediately, without negotiation, you send a message to yourself: I am someone who does what must be done. This message, repeated daily, becomes belief. And belief becomes character. Waking up early shifts you from being reactive to being proactive. Most people wake up late and immediately feel behind. They rush, they react. They allow circumstances to dictate their mood. But when you rise before the world demands your attention, you reclaim authority over your life. You are no longer chasing the day. You are leading it. This subtle shift transforms how you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who lacks discipline. You stop telling yourself stories about being lazy or not a morning person. Instead, you begin to embody reliability, strength, control. Identity is powerful because it influences behavior automatically. If you see yourself as disciplined, you act disciplined. If you see yourself as weak, you act weak. So every early morning becomes a vote cast toward a stronger self-image. It is not about waking at a specific hour. It is about proving to yourself that you can rise above impulses. Each morning, you choose purpose over comfort. You reinforce a new standard. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. You begin to move through the day with quiet confidence. Because you know something others may not. You have already won your first battle before the sun even rises. Discipline over comfort is a choice that defines the direction of your life. Comfort is seductive. It whispers softly in moments of decision. It tells you to sleep a little longer, to delay effort, to choose ease over challenge. Comfort feels safe. It feels deserved. But comfort, when constantly chosen, slowly weakens the will. Discipline feels different. It does not shout. It does not promise immediate pleasure. In fact, it often feels uncomfortable, especially at the beginning. Getting out of a warm bed when the room is cold is not pleasant. Moving your body when it feels heavy is not enjoyable. Sitting in silence instead of scrolling through endless distractions is not instantly gratifying. But discipline builds something comfort never can is strength. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you strengthen your ability to act despite your emotions. And this ability is rare. Most people are controlled by how they feel in the moment. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel unmotivated, they delay. If they feel afraid, they retreat. When you rely on feelings, your life becomes unstable. Feelings change like the weather. Discipline, however, is steady. It allows you to move forward, even when motivation disappears. Choosing discomfort in small things trains you for greater challenges. Waking up early when you don't feel like it prepares you to stay focused. When work becomes difficult, finishing what you start even when bored, prepares you to handle long-term goals. Pushing through minor resistance conditions your mind to withstand larger pressures. Comfort shrinks your tolerance for difficulty. Discipline expands it. And the more you expand your tolerance for difficulty, the less intimidating life becomes. Problems that once felt overwhelming begin to feel manageable. Obstacles become training rather than threats. There is also a hidden reward in choosing discipline: self-respect. When you consistently choose what is right over what is easy, you begin to admire yourself. This quiet admiration builds inner confidence. Not loud pride, but steady certainty. Comfort gives temporary relief. Discipline gives lasting power. In the early morning, when no one is watching, the choice is simple but powerful. Stay where it is easy, or rise into what will make you stronger. One builds weakness slowly. The other builds resilience daily. Silence builds power in ways noise never can. If the early morning carries a unique quality, before the traffic begins, before messages arrive, before the demands of the world pull at your attention, in those quiet hours, there is space, and in that space, you meet yourself. Most people live in constant stimulation. Notifications, conversations, entertainment, opinions. The mind becomes crowded. When the mind is crowded, clarity disappears. You begin to think in fragments. You react instead of reflect. You move without direction because there is no pause long enough to see clearly. But in the silence of early morning, something shifts. Without noise, your thoughts slow down. You can observe them instead of being dragged by them. You begin to notice patterns, fears that repeat, excuses that surface, goals that truly matter. Awareness grows in stillness. Power begins with awareness. If you cannot hear your own thoughts, how can you guide them? If you cannot sit alone without distraction, how can you lead yourself under pressure? The quiet morning teaches you to be comfortable with yourself. No external validation, no external entertainment, just presence. And presence strengthens the mind. When you wake up early and guard that silence, you create a training ground for focus. Focus is like a muscle. If constantly interrupted, it weakens. But when protected and practiced, it becomes sharp. In silence, you can plan intentionally instead of reacting emotionally. You can set priorities instead of being controlled by urgency. You decide what deserves your energy before the world tries to claim it. There is also emotional strength built in quiet moments. When you sit without distraction, uncomfortable thoughts may arise: doubt, uncertainty. Instead of escaping them through noise, you learn to face them calmly. Over time, they lose power. Silence teaches control. It teaches patience. It teaches clarity. And clarity reduces confusion. When you know what matters, you waste less time on what does not. Your decisions become deliberate. Your actions become aligned. The world is loud. It will always be loud. But the one who learns to rise early and cultivate silence carries an inner stillness throughout the day. That inner stillness is strength. Because when chaos appears, you do not become chaos. You remain steady. Small habits seem insignificant in the moment. They look harmless, simple, easy to ignore. But small habits are never small in their impact. They are seeds. And every seed, given enough time, becomes something powerful. Waking up early may appear to be a minor adjustment. Just an hour. Maybe even less. But it is not about the hour itself. It is about what that hour represents. It represents control over impulse. It represents intention over accident. It represents discipline practiced. in its simplest form. When you master something small, you build proof. Proof that you can direct yourself, proof that you are not controlled by comfort or mood. This proof becomes the foundation for greater victories. Most people fail at big goals because they ignore small disciplines. They want transformation without structure. They want results without routine. But the mind does not suddenly become strong under pressure. It becomes strong through repeated, controlled actions over time. If you cannot manage a small promise, like waking up early, how will you manage larger responsibilities? If you struggle to overcome minor resistance, how will you handle major obstacles? Small habits are training. Every early morning strengthens your ability to follow through. It conditions you to act, even when energy is low. It reduces the gap between intention and execution. And this gap is where most dreams disappear. The beauty of small habits is their compounding effect. One disciplined morning leads to another. A week becomes a month becomes a year. Over time, the identity shifts. What once felt difficult becomes natural. Consistency transforms effort into character. Small habits also build momentum. When your first action of the day is intentional and disciplined, it influences the rest of your decisions. You are more likely to eat better, to focus deeper, to manage time wisely, because you have already established a standard. That standard spreads. And the opposite is also true. One lazy decision makes the next lazy decision easier. Small habits quietly decide your direction. They do not demand attention. They do not create dramatic change overnight, but they shape who you become with precision. Great transformation is not explosive. It is cumulative. And every early morning is another brick placed carefully in the foundation of a stronger self. Self-trust is built in private moments, not in public achievements, not in applause, not in recognition. It is built when you say you will do something and you do it. Waking up early seems simple, but when you promise yourself that you will rise at a certain hour and the alarm rings, that moment becomes a test of integrity. No one else knows whether you stayed in bed or stood up. There is no external accountability. Only you. When you choose to get up, even when tired, you send a powerful message inward. My word matters. And when your word matters to yourself, your confidence grows quietly but deeply. Many people struggle with self-doubt, not because they lack ability, but because they lack self-trust. They have broken too many promises to themselves. They say that they will start tomorrow. They say they will change. They say they will try harder. But when the moment arrives, they retreat. Over time, the mind remembers. It begins to question future commitments. You said that before. It whispers. You didn't follow through. This internal inconsistency weakens confidence. But when you repeatedly keep small promises, like waking up early, you repair that relationship with yourself. Self-trust is the foundation of inner strength. When you trust yourself, you hesitate less. You decide faster. You move with certainty. Because deep down, you know that once you commit, you follow through. This kind of confidence is not loud or boastful. It is steady. It does not need validation because it is built on evidence. Each disciplined morning becomes evidence that you are reliable. Reliable to yourself. And when you are reliable to yourself, you become reliable in other areas of life. Your work improves. Your relationships strengthen. Your goals feel more attainable. Because you are no longer hoping you will act, you know you will. There is also peace in self-trust. Anxiety often comes from uncertainty about our own behavior. Will I stay consistent? Will I quit? When you build the habit of keeping promises, that anxiety decreases. You begin to respect yourself. And self-respect changes posture, tone, energy. It influences how you walk into rooms and how you handle pressure. All from one quiet decision, repeated daily. The decision to rise when you said you would. The way you begin your morning shapes the direction of your entire day. When you wake up late and rush immediately into responsibility, your nervous system enters reaction mode. There is no pause, no clarity. You are pulled from one demand to the next. Messages, deadlines, conversations. By the time you realize it, the day is leading you. But when you wake up early, something different happens. You create space between waking and reacting. That space is powerful. In that space, you choose your mindset before the world chooses it for you. You breathe before you speak. You think before you respond. You decide what matters before distractions attempt to convince you otherwise. Energy flows from the first action of the day. If your first action is hesitation, delay, or indulgence, that tone quietly carries forward. It becomes easier to procrastinate again, easier to avoid difficulty, easier to justify laziness. But if your first action is discipline, intention, and awareness, that energy also carries forward. One strong decision makes the next strong decision easier. Your morning sets your internal standard. If you begin the day with control, you are more likely to maintain control when challenges arise. When stress appears, you are not already drained by chaos. You have prepared your mind. You have centered yourself. There is a psychological advantage to starting early. You feel ahead rather than behind. You feel prepared rather than pressured. This subtle shift changes how you approach tasks. You act with purpose instead of urgency. Urgency creates mistakes. Purpose creates precision. When you rise early, you gain momentum before the world accelerates. You can exercise, reflect, plan, or learn without interruption. This proactive beginning influences productivity, emotional stability, and focus throughout the day. It is not only about efficiency, it is about direction. Every day is a small life. And how you begin that small life determines its quality. If you begin with clarity, the day moves with clarity. If you begin with discipline, the day reflects discipline. If you begin with intention, the day unfolds with intention. Your future is built day by day, and each day is shaped in the first quiet hour after you wake. There is a version of you already standing in the future. Calm, focused, disciplined, certain. That version did not appear by accident. It was built in quiet mornings. It was shaped in moments when comfort was available, but discipline was chosen instead. Your future self wakes up early, not because it is perfect, not because it never feels tired, but because it understands the power of small, consistent decisions. It understands that identity is built daily, that strength is trained privately, that clarity is cultivated in silence. Every sunrise is an invitation to remain who you were yesterday or to rise into who you are becoming. When the alarm rings, it is not just a sound. It is a question. Will you choose ease or will you choose growth? Will you react to life or will you lead it? Will you delay your potential or will you step toward it? Your future is not created in dramatic moments. It is shaped in disciplined mornings, in the unseen victories, in the quiet decision to rise when it would be easier to stay. Do not wait to feel ready. Do not wait to feel motivated. Become the person first, and the feelings will follow. Tomorrow morning, when the world is still asleep and the sky is just beginning to change, remember this. The person you want to become is built before the sun fully rises. Stand up, breathe deeply, step forward, and begin becoming your future self, one morning at a time.